Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk, a new series of candid conversations covering the issues facing freelance professionals today. I'm Tom Rizzo, your host, Managing Director and founder of Plectrum Advisors, an investment advisory firm based in Los Angeles. On each episode of Let's Talk, I'll be speaking with some of the most plugged-in experts to help you and me make sense of today's changing environment and to help you be smarter about how to approach work and life. So let's get started. Our guest this week is John Bishop, founder of the jazz and classical record label Origin Records, based in Seattle. Many of you are already familiar with the great work John's done to help jazz and classical artists get their music heard and distributed worldwide. Today we'll talk to John about how the label works and how he came to create it. John is also a first-rate drummer, having worked with people such as Bobby McFerrin, Lee Konitz, Slide Hampton, Benny Golson, Jessica Williams, Kenny Werner, Bobby Hutcherson, Dr. Lonnie Smith, Julian Priester, Ernestine Anderson, Buddy DeFranco, Joanne Brackeen, Carla Bley, Steve Swallow, Sonny Fortune, and countless others. He's also a regular member of Hal Garper's jazz trio. I'm so very happy that John could join us today. Welcome, John. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Great to be with you. Nice to see you.
Likewise. I think the last time I saw you in person was several years ago at Jazz Fest or something up in San Jose.
Yeah. Jazz Week conference.
Yes, but COVID has kept us apart, but now here we are.
It's brutal times.
It is brutal times. Well, we're trying to make good things out of this.
Indeed.
I think there are probably a fair number of people in our audience that are familiar with Origin Records and what you do, but there are probably a fair number that don't know about you. So could you speak a little bit about what it is you do with this company and tell us why you decided to get into this?
Yeah, indeed. Well, it's always strange to try to put a storyline behind it, because it's basically just a guy who's a drummer who kind of stumbled into this and that, and then here we are quite a few years later, and there's a record label attached to it. So basically at this point where we're at is I have a jazz label that's got about 360 artists connected with it, 700 recordings. We started a classical label a few years ago that's been going, another jazz label, OA2 Records, that started 20 years ago. We do a jazz festival once a year up here for the last 20 years. And then we just get involved with stuff. Working back from that, basically, I just, this whole label developed out of me being a drummer, needing to have an outlet for music. I slowly got into doing graphics for things back in the 90s. And got a computer and started doing graphics because, bands, we needed posters, we needed cassette covers, we needed whatever. So I got into designing CD covers. And from doing the CD covers and production of my own things, I ended up doing for friends. And then for a couple of production houses, I would do CD cover design. Anyway, just figured out that that's something that musicians need. It's certainly what I needed. All my friends who are musicians needed it. So I had this thing that could help. So that was the starting point of all of this. There was no plan to start a business. There was no plan to, really turn it into anything. If I probably, even within 5 years of starting the label, if I had gotten a call to go on the road for, 6 months, I would have just gone. So, it's not like it was a firm decision like, this is my new life, this is who I am. But it's definitely turned out that way as it just kind of steamrolled after 5-6 years where, the whole point of the label was helping out musicians who were already in the process of doing a record. It wasn't me going out and finding somebody and going, oh, you should do a record. Here's some cash. Here's what I want you to do. Let's take you and record you. It was all musicians who were already in process. It was forward momentum. And then they knew that I did this thing. And it was like, this would be a great help for me right now at this moment. So for each one of these projects that came along, there was this energy behind it at the moment. So I kind of let that carry me and carry the label. It's just when you've got, 4 or 5 of those a month and you've just got this movement going, a lot of this last 25 years have been a blur just because of that. You get caught up in the opportunities that happen, just like being a musician where you get a call and, it's like, show up here and so it's interesting that I have a company. It's very interesting that this has happened, but I think the thing that's made it successful is it's not just me running around going, okay, here's my vision, and now I'm going to do it. Here I start putting all the pieces together. It's taking advantage of the movement and the energy that's happening around me and letting that propel the business, letting that propel, like each person that comes on, they're helping out each other because the energy each one of them puts into their project reflects on the next record and the last record and the next one coming up. So you've just got this wave. So anyway, the original business model that I set up at the beginning is exactly the same as what I have now. For some reason, it worked. It continues to work. I'm not rich, but I can continue it, and we can keep putting out good music, and it's got an energy to it, and it's got a movement, and that all continues.
I think it's so great the structure of the model that you have, in that you're able to provide pieces of the puzzle that so many of us it's just not our area. And some of those pieces are promotion. How do you get things played on a radio? How do you get knowledge that it's out there? How do you design a cover that is appealing in the appropriate way? These days, how do you get things onto the streaming services in a way that is correct? So can you, for those people that don't know all of what the label does, can you take us through a little bit of like what a typical, the process of a typical project, what the artist has to do and what it is that you do?
Sure. So, going back, I think, I think most musicians already have, they already know everything I know. It's just they haven't spent time obsessing on certain things, and they're focusing on what they're interested in. And how musicians go into different, some musicians end up being great. They do weddings and bar mitzvahs, and they just have generated a thing there in their machines. Or others become studio artists, or every artist finds their little path. But all of the little elements that go into their day-to-day thing, it's just, that's what I'm doing, are those little things like promotion, knowing that you have to put a promo packet together. Every musician has to do that. I'm doing it in the realm of making a record and putting it through that process. So basically, all I'm doing is taking this certain skill set and I've made that a centerpiece. And most artists, the nice thing is they don't have to think about it as much if there are a few people like me around who can direct that. Just like when I'm trying to get gigs going or something, I'm not good at hustling gigs, but I've got friends who are, so I can just kind of look to them to direct me in certain aspects. So that's the way I think about what I'm doing. But so basically, I got together with one of my old drum students in mid 90s, who he started doing web stuff at the beginning of the internet. And I was working on covers at the beginning of moving to computers and being able to output digital files as opposed to doing film and laying out all sorts of stuff. So we had these couple of skill sets that most people didn't have, and we had it together. So being able to set up people early on with production of CDs and website stuff and getting into the digital stream of things, that was a major thing. And then I had to kind of take what I already knew from putting out records before, hooking up distribution, getting a distribution company that would get us into Tower Records and Virgin Megastores and into Japan and Europe and everything. So it's so that's what I've been spending 25 years on, is developing the relationships with distributors and with sales reps amongst that. And then the promotional side, which is coming up with database of radio and press and licensing operations, and now, of course, internet radio and digital outlets and all that kind of stuff. So that's a continual thing, is building that community, that relationship of promo and sales force and all of that kind of thing. So that's the main gist of it, is just that record label thing. But then what I also spend a lot of time on is just talking about, so digital, what does that mean to me? Like certain artists will come on and go, I want to be on Spotify, is my bottom line. So that'll be, I'll have to talk about, well, Spotify's fine. I wouldn't put my expectations there. Where somebody else will come and say, I only want to do CDs, I do not want to get into Spotify. And then I have to say, well, actually Spotify has this for you. And so there's a lot of consultation. There's talking about all of that stuff with copyright law and just timing and just all the stuff that goes into putting out records. But the nice thing for us in this situation is they're getting this consultation from another musician who's trying to look at it from, like, how do I get the most as a musician out of all this, as opposed to if they were with a record label where it's somebody who's making a lot of money, who's trying to make money off of selling records. Their interests are different than mine, as far as, you and what your career goes like and how that relates to my career. It's a different thing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it sure does. And I've had personal experience with you. I've had you handle a couple of my own records, and several of my colleagues have had you handle their records. And, I can personally attest to just the enormous value added that you brought to the process. You have become an expert in areas that I'm not an expert in, in terms of mostly how to promote and how to make this package look attractive. And it was a real eye-opener for me. I had done several projects before I met you, and had, whatever success I had with those. And then the ones that I had you handled, boy, there was a whole avenue of exposure, if nothing else, worldwide exposure. We used to get emails from people who heard the record in France or in Switzerland or Spain or something like that, and it was, wow, John got this out there. And I think you did, for me and my colleagues, the thing that we're always hoping for is that, we have a belief in our music, but we can't get it in front of people who might appreciate it. And yeah. I think that's one of the really great things I love about your company is that, you know, you're not trying to get a jazz record played on a pop station. You're trying to get, if it's a jazz record, you're sending it to the appropriate people who will appreciate that record, and the same with the classical end of things.
Indeed. Well, that's part of the thing too, is the way I'm thinking about it, like compared to like regular record labels, where usually you have a person coming in who has a particular interest, like they really like mainstream jazz, or they really like smooth jazz, or they really like out music. And so they create this label around their interests, and it's like their investments. So they're trying to make their money back, and they're trying to deliver this product. And for me, it's always been, I mean, I like to be surprised. I like variation. I like lots of different people and different, I mean, that's the way I built my career, was doing a wide array of gigs. And that was exciting. That's fun. And the mix of people that you come to through all of that is entertaining, you know, it keeps things interesting. So part of the thing of the label that I wanted to develop was being able to take this array of artists and these array of projects and build up this relationship with radio and press, where I could send them anything. It could be right in their wheelhouse. It could be that mainstream thing. It could be a big band. It could be a solo bass player playing completely out. And the thing would be, is they would know to expect to be surprised. They would know that the person that's making the music has an audience, has a thing, is a force within themselves. They're not going to get it from any other label. There's going to be this certain energy to it. And so I don't know what I'm getting to exactly entirely, but the point would be working off the strengths of each artist that comes along, and trying to build a infrastructure where each one of them can shine the most that they can shine. And that's been kind of the thing with the label all these years, is like developing that and seeing where it goes. And so far, like over 25 years, we've got these media friends who just love that aspect of it. And sometimes I'm shocked at what gets played on the radio. We'll send certain things, and I'm shocked to see that it got covered. But they're in the mood of taking those things that don't necessarily fit their thing, but because they like what we've done, and they like this this thing we deliver to them, they play along.
What are the elements of a project that contribute to it getting noticed? Are there things that are similar among projects that end up getting noticed by radio?
Usually it's you can never tell. It's like certain thing. There's probably out of our 700 records, there's probably 10 of them where I could have said, oh, this one's going to do well. And it's a combination of, it's a person that has been around, who's done a lot. People know who it is. So that usually is like the best definer. It's like, okay, people know who it is, and they can go, oh, okay, I'll give this a chance. I'll put it on. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we've had just dozens and dozens of things where I would have never guessed. Like, I just saw the I get our top spins on digital every week. And I'm looking up there, and like our number 3 record out of 700 again is a record that came out 20 years ago. Oh. And it was just a small little thing that this guy did, just a just a record. He just played tunes. He just played music, and it just resonated for some reason. And there it is, number 3 on Spotify out of all of our records. And you can't figure that out. It's just magic. That's the magic of the making music and sharing. You never know what's going to resonate.
Yeah. Well, it's I know both for myself and many of my colleagues who are, especially the ones that write, there's some kind of internal impetus to get it produced or recorded in a way that it can be shared. And although the artist might love what he or she is doing, we really have no idea whether even one other person is going to relate to this. We just don't know.
Yeah, none of us do. That's what I was up against, my whole life playing music. You never know if what you're doing is worth anything.
Right.
And I always counted on if I got, another phone call to play. So today I'm worth something,
Yeah, right.
And then if I decide to make a record, I'm certainly not going to be running around trying to go to clubs and go, hey man, this here, check this out,
Right.
or try to get radio airplay. But that's part of the thing of building this thing. It's got its own reputation now. It's above all of us. We're just kind of all scuffling around, but we've got this entity now that can do all of that business for us. It's got a reputation, it's got a sound, it's got a look, and so we just have to feed into that, and we can get our stuff played. It's nice.
If you had to speak to if there's somebody out there that is thinking of at the stage that they're thinking they would like to make a recording of either their material or their adaptations of somebody else's material or something, do you have recommendations for what they ought to do in order to maximize the potential for success of that project?
Well, the beauty and the pain of now is that it doesn't really matter. The industry is so bleak as an industry that it's actually kind of nice, because you can do anything you want and you will probably have the same amount of success as if you really try to make it fit this thing that you think somebody wants. So I think there's a lot to be said for just being who you are and just create who you are. And, you never know what's going to click with people. And I think that can be the great surprise in all of this, is that, you can just be who you are, just create what you want and what you hear. And you never know. I've seen a lot of projects that spent way too much money trying to be something that they weren't. Yeah. And, 3 months later, they've got a bunch of CDs sitting around and there's a lot of disappointment and dashed expectations. So I think just be who you are, just make your music.
It's great advice. What I try to tell myself and other people I talk to about this project is try to remember when you first started, before there was money or fame or anything, which is when you first started. What was your impulse then? And try to reconnect with that and bring that into the professional world in some way. So
funny that you should say that. I just flashed on this morning. When I was in the 3rd grade, I had a little snare drum and a little cymbal, and I was doing some playing with friends that was just utter crap, obviously. But there was a friend of mine in school, Stanley Garrison, who played a little guitar, and he was going to play a little school assembly thing, and he was going to play the tune "Love Is Blue." And I thought I should be able to play with him, but he had this other friend who played the gig, and it just like. It's like one of those lessons that I still carry, that stupid story follows me around to this day. It's like, you have to be involved. you have to be hanging out with Stanley or whoever, and you have to show up and play and become a part of that little scene. Or else you don't get to play Love is Blue in front of the school, you know? So show up. And so that's kind of been my thing ever since then, is like leave the house, show up, be a part, and then see what happens.
That's a fabulous story. I'm in third grade and it's still with you, and you have made a hell of an impression on you, right? Yeah.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. And you drew the correct conclusions. I mean, even as a little kid, you said, "Oh, this is why that didn't go my way, and this is what I have to do to correct that situation." That's really.
I have a feeling my first impression was different than that, maybe more primitive, you know, like.
Of course.
But I figured it out at some point.
Yeah, that's really great. Do your artists, do they communicate or network with each other? Do you find people who didn't know each other?
Oh, yeah. You know, I think, I mean, it kind of started just the fact that, you know, when I started the whole thing, it was friends coming to me and musicians I already knew. So you've got to already have this network of, you know, 100 musicians who have all know each other and all kind of interact. And as everything's grown from there, it's almost exclusively been word of mouth. Like we'll get, we got a guy from Chicago came on and did a record, and then like all of a sudden we get another guy from Chicago and then another, and it's just this network of people going, oh, you got a new project, you should probably. So now we've got like 50 artists from Chicago. Yeah. So there's this network that's just built, and that's been a really cool thing, the way that's kind of, you know, fanned out. You've got this lattice work of, you know, across the country. I enjoy that. And so yes, there's lots of interaction.
Wow. You know, you and I have a few things in common, and one of them is, in addition to being musicians who've spent an enormous part of our lives trying to hone our craft, we're also entrepreneurs. And we have another part of our brain that works in a different way. Do you think at all about how these two areas of your brain work together or differently, and why they do, and that kind of thing? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I mean, any musician is by definition an entrepreneur. You know, you're in business for yourself. You're handling everything. You're even on the most basic level, you know, you're showing up, you're networking, you're booking gigs, you're putting together promotion, you're contacting venues, you're dealing with really rich people at country clubs, you're dealing with other people who have absolutely nothing, and you're figuring out how to work with each one of them. And I mean, that's what we do. That's what we are. The fact that you know, a lot of us go into teaching. So there's like, so you're an entrepreneur, musician, educator. And then we keep adding slashes after that, where, you know, like I also do, you know, websites and stuff. So slash that. And I think for us, we found something that, you know, that's got that more traditional level of like, entrepreneur, business owner kind of thing. But I think it's already in all of us, and it's I mean, that's gonna be the fun thing to watch, is like going through college with a bunch of friends who were all just, you know, knucklehead musicians trying to get by, do things, and you watch them each find their little path, and you know, just some ridiculous success in different things. And I think it's because you're already doing all that stuff, you know. Like I can't imagine another pathway that a person could take where they do have to have so many little skill sets, whether they know they have them or not, And I think, we lucked out because we had something that was actually like, this can be a job, this can be a business, I can, become semi-reputable by doing this particular aspect of my music career.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to see other musicians do that kind of thing, and I'm always like pushing for somebody if it's obvious they have this little talent but they haven't quite figured out their path. That's one of the little things I've got in my system from my family. It's like, well, you know what you should do? There's that little thing inside. You know what you should do is, and so it's nice to see when that kind of thing happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that is that you and I have in common is we offer expertise to people to help them, but it is something they could do themselves if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. From my end of things as an investment advisor, anybody can, open up a brokerage account and put some money in it and invest their money. And in your situation, other people can record their own music, and there are plenty of places to get CDs printed, and then you can, search on the internet, where do I send it, and do that kind of thing. And yet, I think you and I have both found a very rewarding path here to develop and spend a lot of time figuring out how to do this in a way that's going to be better than most people can do by themselves, if for no other reason than we spend a lot of time figuring it out. Whereas somebody who's doing it for the first time, well, they just haven't spent that time.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and I like too, like that you have made your thing. It seems like you have a focus on a lot of like the same thing I think about, which is my friends and colleagues in music, and where you see where the need is, and it's like a part of building up our community, and I do see musicians who develop their skill sets, and then they'll go off to Amazon and get into IT and go to the dark side. That's what we could say with their abilities. And it's nice to see musicians who have developed those things and then bring it back to this community and help to raise the thing for everybody.
Yeah, we had I did a great interview a couple of months ago with Melissa Walker, who is Christian McBride's wife. Mm-hmm. She founded an organization back in New Jersey called Jazz House Kids.
Yeah, it's great.
She's a very strong performer, very strong singer, has a terrific career. But she found this, there's a real need for high quality jazz education, very, very specific field, and built this thing. And she shared some of the videos that she's got of these classes with these kids, and these kids are like 13 years old or something, and they're just killing it. Not so much because they're necessarily more talented than the next guy in the next town over, but she's provided an environment where they've got, Chick Corea comes in and talks to them, or Christian comes in and they got the real deal guy showing them, no, this is how you do this, and they get real results. And I think she's had that's been going 18 years or 20 years or something. So.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, I think there's so many things like that because I just think of people I know who are doing things like that, which are just great. And but there's no we don't have like a central clearinghouse where it's like, I see what's going on out there. It's like you just see these individual things of people doing just outstanding work. But it'd be nice if there was some larger infrastructure that shares that story on a bigger level. You think about things like Billboard magazine or certain things that have their little skill set or their interests, and it's all very particular, but we don't really have anything that tells the whole story about those things. And that can be inspiring for other people coming up, realizing, okay, I'm not gonna make a complete living being a guitar player, but maybe I can do this other thing.
You know, we've talked a lot about the jazz side of things here. You also have a classical label.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how that works and what that's like?
Well, yeah, that I mean, it goes back to that thing again of just opportunity presenting itself, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. That could work. Let's do something with that. In this instance, we had Chris Walden, who's in LA, a great writer for film and TV, and he it was during the strike down there, the actors strike or whatever it was, about a few years ago. So he had no work to do, so he decided to go ahead and write a symphony instead of writing big band music and doing, the stuff he was usually doing. So he decided to write a symphony and went into Capitol Studios and recorded an orchestra playing his thing. And then he asked if, there was any way to do like a classical record. And it was just thinking, our main outlet for promotion and everything is our NPR stations, college stations. They're either jazz or classical or world music or a combination of all the above. So just not a huge step to go, okay, we've got distribution in place already. We've got media outlets and all of that, basically, So yes, let's start a label. So I make a logo. I design a logo, and then we have a classical label. And I think we've got 25 or something releases now. And again, it's one of those things where, you start off with it ended up getting 2 Grammy nominations for Chris's thing. You start off with this big, kind of, something that would cost a lot of money and would take a huge infrastructure to put together. And because we work the way we do, it's all very feasible and all very possible. And so we do that. And then to watch how that label kind of develops and how it finds its way, it's all very entertaining. It's like the same thing as the jazz label. You have this wide breadth of music and these new NPR radio people or writers that I'll get notes from. It's, going, wow, what an interesting bunch of music. What a, that kind of thing. So that's that. And then we ended up in the last couple of years, there's a Cuban cuatro player in Seattle who's got this great band. And so they did a thing that they were trying to figure out how to get out and, just wondering if there's any way we could work together. So anyway, and that was kind of the same thing. It's like, well, okay, Origin World Records, I make a little logo, and then we create this new thing. And so now we've got, 5 or 10 records there that go from Argentine tango to, Cuban music or some very esoteric stuff. But one that just came out, and there it is. It's getting played on jazz radio. It's getting played on classical music stations. So these DJs, this network we've got, are all ready for that stuff. They go, interesting. I'll play it.
Nice. It's almost like the way I imagine the record business may have been 60 or 70 years ago before it became such a huge juggernaut that it gets specialized in corporate and that kind of thing, that it was about, well, we don't know what this is going to do, but let's make it and send it out and see what happens.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine? Yeah, like knowing you're not going to make money off the first 3 or 5 records from an artist, yet you still do it, the way they used to, and how that is no longer exists at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think basically we have that same model, except we've just changed it to where I kind of let the artist curate themselves. It's not me telling them what to play. And then my job is to make the records fit together in a flow so that it makes sense for, press and radio. All works.
It's a fabulous thing that you're doing, John, and it's I don't see it being done anywhere else, or if it's being done, it's not being done anywhere near the level of refinement and care that you're taking to do this. It's
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's when I'm doing it, I just feel like, I'm just trying to keep up. Just like playing music, you're just trying to not look stupid.
Yeah.
But then when I sit back and look at it, I can see that it's a very particular thing that I can't imagine many situations where it could be replicated.
Yeah.
This kind of situation. So I take, the role and responsibility seriously of trying to make sure that keeps flying,
Yeah. Well, it's just fabulous to chat with you about this, and like I said, I've had personally, really remarkable success with having you help me with my projects, and many of my colleagues have, and it's just all kind of a word of mouth. How I heard about you from a colleague. You were doing a record, and I said,
Yep.
You just ought to check out John. He's got this thing in place here that just is really reasonably priced. It seems to work. And I think from the research that I did when I first got together with you is that from a dollar standpoint and a time standpoint, I couldn't figure out how I could even do it for what you were charging. It was
you can't. Yeah, you can't. And that's something that I also, I go back and I research all of that too, all the time, which is go back and how much does it cost for somebody? You're going to make your record no matter what. Mm-hmm. You're on that track. So how much is it going to cost you to do it? Minimum. And it's like, that's how much I charge. So the thing is, I have to make that work within my thing. And so that's the way I took it, was like, I don't want people to have weird expectations about what's going to happen with me. I don't like letting people down. I also don't want, I like to have the best possible scenario of like, I'm not getting ripped off. I think I got more out of this than I thought I would get.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that to be the ongoing thing. Each one of those things as you go along, it's like, I want more than what I paid. I want, that kind of thing. So that's what I want artists to walk away with. And I think that in turn engenders support, loyalty, just this, goodwill that I think carries the label.
Yeah. Well, it certainly does from my end here and what I've seen, how you've been able to help my colleagues. And, I encourage anyone watching this that either has a project or is thinking about doing a project to look into what John has to offer. We'll put up on the screen John's contact information, how you can get a hold of him, and I'm sure he would be happy to chat with you about what he could do for you, and what to expect and all of that kind of thing. So we'd encourage you to do that. We just have a few minutes left here. Is there anything that we haven't talked about? Where do you have any new directions beyond? You mentioned 3. You have the jazz label, classical label, and world label. Are you planning on any other areas to get into?
Isn't that enough, Tom? Isn't that enough?
It is enough. It's any one of those is actually more than enough. I'm actually surprised you have more than one, because I would think that would be you'd be plenty busy.
Well, I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing processes, so I try not to. I don't want to get overwhelmed with everything, so I try to put everything into little boxes. But no, the future, it's like opportunity. It's like whenever there's something presents itself, you kind of look at it and go, is this going to work? Is this going to be a burden? Is this going to help? And usually I'll stick my toe in and give things a try. I mean, that's how we ended up doing our jazz festival. There were a few years that we published a jazz magazine every month.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, you figure out how those things fit in over time, you know, and whether it's a thing to keep carrying on. But from that, it's like right now I've been helping out some other musicians who wanted to start labels that didn't fit into our realm. I could help them by doing sub distributor situations. So I can help them get their businesses together with their labels and then do distribution and that kind of thing. So anyway, just whatever comes up, we figure out, talk about it, and see if it's an angle. And so I don't know what I'll be doing 5 years from now.
I love that approach. I love that approach. Anybody that can tell me what they're going to be doing 5 years from now, I don't believe them anyway.
I don't trust them.
Yeah, I don't trust them. Right. Well, John, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today about your Origin record label, and we wish you continued success with all future projects here. And once again, I'm going to encourage anybody watching to, if they've got even the slightest inclination to be able to produce their own music and get it out in the world, I really recommend that you contact John and see if there's a good fit, because I think you'd be very happy with his service.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, you're very welcome, John, and best of luck in the future here. And I look forward to, maybe we'll do a follow-up chat 6 or 8 months from now to see what else is going on.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm sure I'll be sitting right here. So,
well, hopefully as we get out of the pandemic and, you know, we're all back to some more live playing and that kind of thing, it'd be nice to connect with you again and see what's going on from there.
Can't wait.
All right. Thanks again,
Tom.
John. It's my pleasure, and we look forward to the next one.
Very good. Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet, John. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for today's episode with John Bishop of Origin Records. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you'll come back for more. We've got some great guests lined up for future episodes, and we'll be sure to let you know when they're available. Thanks again for watching.